Welcome to Night Creepypasta Rules, where the graveyard shift never ends, and neither do the things that crawl out after midnight. They told me the night shift would be quiet. No customers, just me, the hum of the freezers, and the flicker of fluorescent lights. They didn't tell me about the rules, or what happens when you break them. This isn't just a creepy story. It's a survival manual disguised as fiction. Stay to the end, because the twist will change how you see every night shift from now on. And if you've ever seen something strange on a quiet night, comment below. Subscribe to Night Creepypasta Rules. We'll be watching, just like the Raven on Counter 3. The first time I saw a raven die inside Raven's Crossing Supermart, it exploded into a cloud of writhing maggots that scattered across the linoleum like living mercury. That's when I realized the 3 rules weren't company policy. They were survival tactics. My name is Jamie Winters, and I never wanted to work the graveyard shift at a forgotten supermarket in rural Montana. But desperation has a way of lowering your standards. After dropping out of college when my mom's medical bills consumed our family savings, I found myself back in my hometown of Raven's Crossing with few prospects and mounting debt. The town itself is barely a footnote on maps. A former mining community that should have died decades ago when the Blackwood Coal Company abandoned the shafts after the '87 collapse that killed 23 miners. Somehow, the town clings to existence, its population dwindling yearly, leaving behind empty storefronts and decaying Victorian houses that whisper of better days. Raven's Crossing Supermart sits alone on the edge of town, a sprawling single-story building surrounded by an asphalt parking lot cracked with weeds. During daylight hours, it's unremarkable. Fluorescent lights, squeaky shopping carts, the smell of floor cleaner barely masking decades of spilled milk and crushed produce. But at night, when the vast windows reflect only darkness and the overhead lights seem to retreat from the corners, the store transforms into something else entirely. I've been desperate enough to accept the night clerk position without asking too many questions. The pay was surprisingly good, $22 an hour for a job that mainly involved restocking shelves and manning an empty checkout counter from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. The store manager, Eliza Morton, a severe woman in her 50s with prematurely silver hair and eyes that never quite met mine, seemed almost reluctant to hire me despite my being the only applicant. "The night shift isn't for everyone," she'd said, studying my application with unusual intensity. "We've had turnover issues. I'm not afraid of being alone," I'd assured her, thinking of the all-nighters I'd pulled during my brief college career. "And I need the money." Something in her expression had softened then. Not quite pity, but a recognition of desperation she understood all too well. "3 rules," she'd said finally, sliding a yellowed index card across her cluttered desk. "Follow them without exception and you'll be fine." I'd glanced at the card, expecting standard retail policies. No stealing, no friends visiting, no sleeping on the job. Instead, I found handwritten instructions that made no sense. If a raven lands on the checkout counter, don't move. If the ice cream freezer hums like it's breathing, keep walking. If the front door's open with no one there, stay behind the counter. I'd laughed, assuming it was some kind of initiation joke. Eliza didn't smile back. "I'm serious, Jamie. These rules keep my night clerks alive." She tapped the card with one long pale finger. "Memorize them. The camera system doesn't always work after midnight, and cell reception is spotty at best. You'll be on your own." I'd nodded, still half convinced it was elaborate hazing for the new employee. The rules seemed arbitrary, even silly, but the intensity in Eliza's eyes suggested otherwise. "What happens if I break them?" I'd asked, trying to keep my tone light. Eliza had simply retrieved the card, returning it to her desk drawer. "Then I'll be interviewing for your replacement next week." That conversation was 3 days ago. Tonight is my first shift completely alone. The evening starts normally enough. Eliza walks me through closing procedures at 10:30 p.m., counting the tills, locking the office safe, checking that the automatic doors are set to manual mode for overnight. The final customers trickle out by 10:50 p.m. Mostly locals stocking up on beer and microwave meals. At 11 p.m. sharp, Eliza locks the front entrance from inside, hands me the keys, and heads for the employee exit. "Remember the rules," she says, pausing at the door. "And Jamie? The security cameras record everything, but don't rely on them to show you the truth. Trust your instincts instead." Before I can ask what she means, she's gone, the heavy metal door clanging shut behind her. The sound echoes through the empty store, followed by an unnatural silence as the daytime ambient music system shuts down automatically. For the first hour, I focus on mundane tasks: restocking the bread aisle, mopping a spill in produce, organizing the magazine rack. The store feels cavernous without customers, the ceiling-mounted fluorescents creating pools of harsh light, separated by deepening shadows. The constant hum of refrigeration units provides the only soundtrack, punctuated occasionally by the building's settling creaks. At midnight, I am arranging a display of canned soup when the security monitor behind the main counter beeps. The system is ancient, a wall of small black and white screens showing grainy footage from cameras positioned throughout the store. One screen flickers, showing the parking lot entrance. A car has pulled in, an old Buick with one headlight dimmer than the other. I watch as the driver parks near to the entrance, sits for a long moment, then exits the vehicle. The figure is indistinct on the grainy monitor, but appears to be a woman in a long coat. I make my way to the front counter, remembering Eliza's instructions about overnight customers. The doors are locked, but legitimate late-night shoppers can buzz for entry. The woman approaches slowly, her face obscured by the camera's poor quality, and the shadows cast by the single parking lot light. When she reaches the entrance, she doesn't buzz for entry. Instead, she presses her palm flat against the glass door and stands perfectly still, her face tilted upward toward the security camera. The monitor suddenly distorts, static washing across the screen. When it clears, the woman is gone. I scan the other monitors, searching for her in the side entrances or loading dock, but there's no sign of her anywhere. A prickling sensation crawls up my spine. I check the front door, still locked. No sign anyone was there. As I turn back to the counter, movement catches my eye. On the monitor showing the bread aisle I just restocked, a dark shape flickers across the screen. Too fast to identify, too solid to be a shadow. The temperature seems to drop suddenly, my breath fogging slightly in the air. The overhead lights flicker once, twice, then stabilize at a slightly dimmer setting than before. From somewhere deep in the store, perhaps the frozen food section, comes a sound that doesn't belong among the mechanical hums and refrigeration cycles. A soft, rhythmic thumping, like a heartbeat amplified through the building's ventilation system. The security monitor beeps again. This time, all 16 screens show the same image. A raven perched on checkout counter 3, staring directly into the camera, its head tilted at an impossible angle. I glance at counter 3, visible from my position at the main register. It's empty. No raven, no bird of any kind. Yet on the monitor, the raven remains, its eyes reflecting the security light like twin points of flame. As I watch, transfixed, the bird on the screen opens its beak. No sound emerges, but words scroll across the bottom of the monitor in blocky text. "Welcome to the night shift, Jamie. She didn't tell you everything." By 1 a.m., I have convinced myself that stress and an overactive imagination caused the strange experiences. The security monitors show nothing unusual. The temperature has normalized, and the unsettling sounds have stopped. I focus on my assigned tasks, methodically restocking shelves in aisle 7, pet food and cleaning supplies. The routine work is almost meditative, and I find myself relaxing slightly. Perhaps Eliza's rules are just the eccentric precautions of a woman who spent too many years in an old building that makes strange noises at night. The sound of the entry buzzer shatters my fragile calm. Someone is at the front door requesting access. I make my way cautiously to the main counter, checking the security monitor. An elderly woman in a floral housecoat stands at the entrance, clutching a large purse. I recognize her as Mrs. Harmon. A regular customer Eliza had mentioned might come in for late-night shopping. Apparently, she suffers from insomnia and often bakes through the night. Just need flour and eggs, dear. Mrs. Harmon's voice crackles through the speaker. Having trouble sleeping again? Her presence is so normal, so expected, that my earlier unease begins to dissipate. I unlock the door, allowing her entry. "Thank you, Jamie," she says, smiling warmly. Such a cold night for April. I freeze. I never introduced myself, and I'm not wearing a name tag. Mrs. Harmon doesn't seem to notice my reaction, shuffling toward the baking aisle with practiced familiarity. I return to the counter, watching her on the security monitor. Her movements are perfectly ordinary, selecting items, checking prices, placing products in her small basket. Yet something feels off. The cameras occasionally glitch when tracking her, frames dropping so she appears to teleport short distances. Once she looks directly up at a camera, and for a split second, her eyes reflect the light like an animal's, tapetum lucidum, the biological structure humans don't possess. The glitch is so brief I convince myself it's just another camera malfunction. Mrs. Harmon approaches the counter with her purchases: flour, eggs, vanilla extract, and oddly, a large container of salt. As I begin scanning her items, she leans forward conspirationally. "You're new," she says, her voice suddenly lower, more resonant than before. "Do you know why they call this place Raven's Crossing?" "The town name, I assume," I reply, bagging her flour. She chuckles, the sound like dry leaves rustling. "No, dear. The town was named Blackwood originally, after the mining company. They changed it in '88, after what happened." My hands pause over the register. After what happened? After the Ravens came. Mrs. Harmon's eyes never blink as she speaks. Thousands of them, the day after they sealed the mine collapse. Covered every building, every street. Most flew away eventually, but some stayed. Some are still here. A soft thud draws my attention to the far end of the counter. A large raven has landed there, its feathers glossy black under the fluorescent lights. It cocks its head, studying us with one obsidian eye. Rule 1 flashes through my mind. If a raven lands on the checkout counter, don't move. I freeze, my hand hovering above the register keys. Mrs. Harmon, however, turns toward the bird with a smile that suddenly seems too wide for her face. "Hello, old friend," she whispers to the raven. "Is it time already?" The bird opens its beak and emits a sound no raven should be capable of. A low, multi-toned hum that vibrates through my teeth and makes the fluorescent lights flicker. Mrs. Harmon nods as if understanding a message. "He says you don't belong here, Jamie," she says, still facing the bird. "He says you have the wrong blood." My heart hammers against my ribs, but I remain motionless, following the first rule with desperate precision. "What does that mean?" I whisper, careful not to shift my position. Mrs. Harmon turns back to me, and her face seems subtly changed. The skin tighter across her cheekbones, her eyes darker and deeper set. "It means you're not a Blackwood," she replies. "Everyone who works the night shift here has always been a Blackwood. Until you. Eliza broke tradition when she hired you." The raven hops closer, its talons clicking against the laminate countertop. It stops directly beside my still frozen hand, close enough that I can feel the heat radiating from its body. More heat than a bird should generate. "I don't understand," I say, my voice barely audible. "You will." Mrs. Harmon places exact change on the counter, though I haven't told her the total. The ravens remember what's buried beneath. They're gatekeepers, you see, watching the crossing between worlds. She gathers her bags with movements suddenly too fluid for an elderly woman. her joints bending with unnatural ease. Follow the rules, Jamie Winters. Not because they'll save you, but because breaking them too soon will end the game before you learn the truth. Mrs. Harmon walks toward the exit, the automatic doors opening for her despite being set to manual mode. Before leaving, she turns back one last time. Check the employee break room. Behind the vending machine, Eliza keeps the old newspapers there. You should know what happened to the others. The doors close behind her, and she vanishes into the darkness beyond the parking lot lights with impossible speed. The Raven remains on the counter, its eyes fixed on me. We stay locked in this tableau for what feels like hours, but is probably only minutes. Finally, it spreads its wings and launches into the air, circling once above my head before disappearing into the shadowy recesses of the ceiling. Mrs. Harmon's suggestion about the break room nags at me. Despite the warning from Deputy Reynolds, who stopped by to check on me, I find myself drawn to the small employee lounge at the back of the store. The space is depressingly generic. A folding table, mismatched chairs, a humming refrigerator, and an ancient vending machine that dispenses off-brand sodas for 75 cents. The vending machine stands against the back wall, its light flickering erratically. It looks heavy industrial, the kind that would require multiple people to move. Yet something about the dust pattern on the floor suggests it has been shifted recently. I brace myself against the side of the machine and push. It moves more easily than expected, sliding sideways to reveal a section of wall covered with yellowed newspaper clippings and photographs. My breath catches as I scan the makeshift memorial. Dozens of articles spanning decades, all with variations of the same headline. Night clerk disappears from local supermarket search continues for missing employee, third worker vanishes from overnight shift. The most recent article is dated just 3 months ago. The employee I presumably replaced. The oldest goes back to 1988, the year after the mine collapse, when the store first opened. Among the clippings are photographs, staff pictures, showing smiling employees on their first day. Each photo has been altered in the same disturbing way. The eye is scratched out with what looks like black ink, but it's the larger photograph at the center of the collection that freezes the blood in my veins. A black and white image from 1987 shows a group of miners standing proudly before the Blackwood mine entrance. 23 men in hard hats and work clothes, their faces solemn beneath coal dust and grime. In the back row, barely visible but unmistakable, stands a man who looks exactly like me. According to the caption, his name was Thomas Winters, my last name. A sharp cracking sound from the front of the store interrupts my thoughts. I hurry back to the main area, heart pounding. The security monitors show nothing unusual, but the temperature has dropped again, my breath fogging in the suddenly frigid air. The fluorescent lights seem dimmer, creating deeper pools of shadow between the aisles. A soft, rhythmic sound emanates from the far end of the store, the frozen foods section. It's the same heartbeat-like thumping I heard earlier, but louder now, more insistent. Rule 2 echoes in my mind. If the ice cream freezer hums like it's breathing, keep walking. I should return to the counter, focus on my assigned tasks, ignore whatever strangeness is occurring in frozen foods. That would be the safe choice, the rule-following choice. But the photograph of Thomas Winters burns in my mind. I need answers. And somehow, I sense they're connected to whatever is happening in this store. I grab a price scanner from the counter as an improvised weapon and move cautiously toward the source of the sound. Each step feels heavier than the last, as if the air itself is thickening around me. The frozen food section occupies the back corner of the store. 8 chest freezers arranged in 2 rows, containing everything from ice cream to frozen vegetables. As I approach, the humming sound resolves into something more complex. Not mechanical cycling, but a pattern that rises and falls with organic irregularity. It sounds like breathing, deep, labored breathing. The central ice cream freezer vibrates slightly with each exhalation. Frost patterns on its glass top shifting and reforming like living things. The temperature here must be well below freezing. My fingers already numb, joints aching. I should turn back. Follow the rules. Keep walking. Instead, I step closer, drawn by a compulsion I can't explain. The breathing freezer contains premium ice cream brands, their colorful containers arranged in neat rows. Nothing appears unusual about the contents. But as I watch, the frost on the glass surface begins to form patterns. Not random crystalline structures, but deliberate shapes, letters, words. Words, THOMAS. The name forms before my eyes, then melts away as the freezer exhales another frigid breath. What do you want? I whisper, my voice thin in the Arctic air. The frost reforms. HELP, US. My rational mind screams that this is impossible, that frost doesn't form messages, that freezers don't breathe. Yet the evidence is literally before my eyes, impossible to deny. Help who? The miners? Thomas Winters? The breathing pattern accelerates, frost forming and melting rapidly as new words appear. BELOW, ALBELOW. The freezer's hum rises to a pitch that makes my teeth ache. The glass top begins to rattle. Ice cream containers shifting inside as if something beneath them is trying to rise. Rule 2 suddenly seems less arbitrary and more vital. I back away, remembering Eliza's warning. Keep walking. Don't engage. As I retreat, the lights in the frozen section flicker violently. For a split second between flashes, I see something impossible. The freezer's contents replaced by faces pressed against the glass from below. Mouths open in silent screams, eyes wide with decades-old terror. Then darkness, as every bulb in the section burns out simultaneously. I turn and run, abandoning all pretense of courage. The main aisle stretches before me, seemingly longer than before. The distance to the checkout counter expanding impossibly. Behind me, the freezer's breathing grows louder, accompanied now by a wet, sliding sound, like something massive pulling itself across tile. I reach the counter, practically diving behind it, putting the solid barrier between myself and whatever might be following. The security monitors show the frozen section now completely dark. But one by one, they begin to static out, screens filling with snow and interference. The store falls silent again. No breathing, no movement, no sound but my own panicked gasps. The lights return to normal brightness, the temperature gradually rising to its usual level. The entry buzzer sounds, making me jump despite its mundane familiarity. The security monitors remain dead, giving me no view of who might be outside. Rule 3. If the front doors open with no one there, stay behind the counter. The buzzer sounds again, more insistent. Without the cameras, I have no way to verify if someone legitimate is seeking entry. It could be Deputy Reynolds returning early, or a genuine customer needing emergency supplies. It could also be something else entirely. I reach for the intercom, pressing the button cautiously. Who's there? My voice sounds small, frightened. Victor Blackwood, comes the reply, the voice deep and cultured. I believe you're expecting me. I wasn't expecting anyone, but the name registers immediately. Blackwood, like the mining company, like the town's original name. Like the town's original name. I'm sorry, sir, but we're not expecting deliveries at this hour. A low chuckle comes through the speaker. Not a delivery, Mr. Winters. A collection? Eliza should have informed you. He knows my name, just like Mrs. Harmon did. I'm not authorized to allow anyone in without manager approval. I stall, trying to think. The rules say, stay behind the counter if the doors open with no one there. But this isn't no one. It's someone identifying himself clearly. Check the schedule in the office, Blackwood suggests, his tone patient, but with an undercurrent of something cold. You'll find my appointment listed. This gives me a legitimate reason to step away from the door while I consider my options. I retreat to the manager's office, a small room adjacent to the employee break room. The daily schedule hangs on a corkboard, and sure enough, there's an entry for 3:30 a.m. V. Blackwood, special collection. Admit immediately. With reluctance, I press the door release. The automatic doors slide open smoothly. The man who enters moves with fluid grace, his tall frame wrapped in an expensive-looking overcoat. Despite the mild spring night, Victor Blackwood appears to be in his 60s, with silver hair swept back from a high forehead and piercing eyes so dark they appear black in the store's lighting. His features are aristocratic. High cheekbones, aquiline nose, thin lips currently curved in a smile that doesn't reach those obsidian eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Winters," he says, his voice even richer in person. "I understand this is your first night shift. Eliza speaks highly of your adaptability. I wasn't informed about any collections, I say, maintaining the counter barrier between us as Rule 3 dictates." "No, you wouldn't be. Not yet. Not yet." Blackwood surveys the store with proprietary interest. The first night is always about acclimation, seeing if you can follow the rules without understanding why they exist. The rules don't make sense, don't they? His smile widens slightly. "You've encountered a raven already, haven't you? And the freezer's unique properties? Yet here you stand unharmed, because you followed the instructions provided." My suspicion deepens. "How do you know what I've experienced?" "Because it's the same for everyone who works the night shift here." A carefully calibrated introduction to the store's peculiarities. Blackwood removes a key from his pocket. Antique. Brass. Ornately designed. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have my collection to make. Please remain at the counter. For your safety." He moves toward the back of the store, his footsteps unnaturally silent on the linoleum. I should stay put, follow the rules, maintain the safety of my position behind the counter. But the photograph of Thomas Winters burns in my memory, alongside the frost message, "Help us." Below, all below. I make my decision. Once Blackwood disappears down the central aisle, I move quietly from behind the counter, following at a distance. Breaking Rule 3 feels like crossing an invisible boundary, a point of no return. Blackwood doesn't head toward the freezers as I expected, but to a door marked maintenance only near the loading dock. The door should be locked. It's part of the closing checklist, but it swings open at his touch. He slips inside, closing it behind him. I wait 30 seconds, then approach the door. It's unlocked. Beyond lies a narrow staircase descending into darkness, a basement level I wasn't informed existed during my orientation. The air flowing from the open doorway carries a distinct mineral smell. Damp stone, earth, and something metallic that might be old machinery. Or blood. I retrieve my phone, activating the flashlight function. The beam seems feeble against the absolute darkness below, barely illuminating the first few steps. Common sense tells me to retreat, to return to the counter, and pretend I never followed Blackwood. But the mystery has its hooks in me now. Thomas Winters, the mind collapse, the missing night clerks, the breathing freezer, all connected somehow to whatever lies beneath the store. I begin my descent, each step creaking softly despite my attempt at stealth. The staircase seems to go much deeper than a standard basement would require, the temperature dropping with every step. The walls transition from painted drywall to rough stone, then to what appears to be raw earth, supported by old timber beams, mining supports. The realization hits me with sudden clarity. These aren't stairs to a basement. They're stairs to a mine shaft. The staircase finally ends at a dirt-floored tunnel that stretches into darkness. The construction is unmistakable. An old mining passage, shored up with timbers that groan softly under the weight of earth above. The air is thick with dust, and that same metallic scent, stronger now. My phone's flashlight reveals boot prints in the dirt, fresh impressions leading deeper into the tunnel. Blackwood's trail. I follow the tunnel, trying to move quietly despite the occasional crunch of gravel underfoot. The passage gradually widens, branching into multiple corridors that bear the unmistakable signs of commercial mining operations. Abandoned carts, rusted tools, support beams stamped with the Blackwood Coal Company logo. I'm in the sealed mine, the one that collapsed in '87, killing 23 men, including, presumably, Thomas Winters. But the mine was supposed to be sealed, inaccessible. Instead, it's directly connected to the supermarket built above it. The implications are disturbing. The store wasn't just built near the disaster site. It was built purposefully above it, with maintained access to the sealed tunnels below. A faint glow appears ahead, artificial light spilling from some chamber connected to the main passage. With it comes the sound of voices, one unmistakably Blackwood's resonant baritone, the other higher, feminine, yet with an unnatural echo quality that makes the words indistinct. I extinguish my phone light and creep forward, pressing against the rough wall as I approach the illuminated chamber. The voices grow clearer, beginning to suspect, Blackwood is saying. The resemblance is too strong. The resemblance is too strong. You should have chosen someone else. There was no one else, replies the feminine voice. Familiar somehow. The bloodline is specific. It had to be him. It's dangerous. If he discovers the connection before the cycle completes, he won't. The rules will keep him contained until the alignment. I edge closer to the chamber entrance, risking a quick glance around the corner. The space beyond is larger than I expected. A natural cavern that's been expanded and reinforced. Battery-powered work lights create harsh shadows across the uneven floor. In the center stands Victor Blackwood, his back to me, facing a figure partially obscured by a stone formation. Between them is what appears to be an altar of some kind. A flat stone slab elevated on rough pillars, its surface stained dark with what I desperately hope isn't blood. On the altar lies a small cloth bundle. As I watch, Blackwood unwraps it to reveal a raven. Not alive, but not exactly dead either. The bird's eyes are open, glassy, yet somehow alert. Its feathers shimmer with an oily iridescence that seems to absorb rather than reflect the harsh light. The offering is insufficient, says the feminine voice, its owner still hidden from my view. The barrier weakens with each cycle. We need more than symbols and surrogates now. The preparations are underway, Blackwood responds, his tone deferential. A stark contrast to the authority he projected upstairs. The final sacrifice will occur at the appointed hour. The Winters boy is the key, just as his ancestor was. My breath catches at the mention of my name. Sacrifice? My instinct is to retreat, to flee back up the stairs and out of the store, abandoning this nightmare entirely. But my feet seem rooted to the spot as Blackwood continues. The resemblance is uncanny, he says, prodding the unnatural raven with one finger. Thomas Winters could have been his twin. Not coincidence, replies the hidden figure. The bloodline was chosen generations ago. We've been guiding it, shaping it, ensuring the vessel would be ready when needed. Vessel. The word sends a chill through me that has nothing to do with the cavern's cold air. And the others? Blackwood asks. The previous night clerks? The previous night clerks? Listenos. Maintenance. The barrier requires regular feeding to contain what lies beyond. Their essence keeps the crossing sealed. My stomach churns as the implications become clear. The missing employees weren't just disappearing. They were being sacrificed, fed to whatever barrier these people are maintaining. I must make some small sound. A gasp, a shifting of weight, because Blackwood suddenly stiffens, turning toward the tunnel entrance where I hide. We have company, he says softly. I don't wait to be discovered. I turn and run, abandoning stealth for speed, racing back through the tunnel toward the stairs. Behind me, I hear Blackwood's voice calling out with unnatural volume. You can't escape, Jamie. The store won't let you. I reach the staircase and take the steps two at a time, my lungs burning with exertion and the dust-filled air. The door at the top appears as a rectangle of fluorescent light. Safety. Normalcy. Escape. Normalcy. Escape. I burst through into the store's main area, slamming the maintenance door behind me. The familiar aisles and bright lighting should be reassuring, but now they seem like a thin veneer over something ancient and malevolent. I race toward the front entrance, no longer concerned with rules or protocol. My only thought is escape, getting out of this building and as far from Raven's Crossing as possible. The automatic doors loom ahead, the night sky visible beyond the glass. I'm 10 feet away when they slide open smoothly, without me triggering the sensor, without anyone visible outside. Rule 3. If the front doors open with no one there, stay behind the counter. I skid to a halt, remembering the rule too late. The open doorway shows the empty parking lot. A single street lamp creating a pool of yellow light that seems impossibly distant now. Something moves in the darkness just beyond the door. A shifting of shadows that coalesces into a vaguely human shape. Not solid, not fully formed, but unmistakably present. Waiting. I back away from the entrance, remembering Eliza's warning. The rules exist for a reason. They keep night clerks alive. They keep night clerks alive. The shadowy figure remains just outside, neither advancing nor retreating. I turn and sprint toward the counter, seeking the protection promised by Rule 3. As I vault over the laminate surface, the lights throughout the store flicker violently. When they stabilize, the front doors have closed. The shadow is gone, or at least no longer visible. My heart pounds against my ribs as I try to process what I've seen, what I've heard. Blackwood and his hidden companion discussing sacrifices, barriers, and bloodlines. My apparent connection to Thomas Winters, not just resemblance, but some kind of planned genetic lineage, cultivated over generations. The store phone rings, its shrill tone cutting through the silence. I stare at it, remembering the warning. Don't use the phone after midnight unless you want to talk to them. But what if it's help? Deputy Reynolds perhaps checking in early. On the fourth ring, I answer, keeping my voice steady with effort. Raven's Crossing Supermart. Jamie. The voice is familiar. Eliza Morton, I manager. Where are you in the store right now? Behind the counter, I reply cautiously. Good. Stay there. Her voice sounds strained, urgent. Whatever you do, don't leave that position until sunrise. Blackwood is not what he seems. The chamber shudders violently, dust cascading from the ceiling as the rumbling intensifies. The blue symbols on the altar pulse erratically now, their light fluctuating between brilliant flares and near darkness. The air itself feels charged, heavy with potential energy, and the metallic scent I now recognize as blood, old blood, soaked into the very stone of this place. How does the ritual work? I ask, my decision forming even as fear churns in my stomach. If Eliza is telling the truth, thousands of lives hang in the balance. If she's lying, only my own life is at stake. A calculated risk I'm increasingly willing to take. Relief floods Eliza's face. The book contains the words. The key opens the final page, the completion Thomas never reached. She retrieves the brass key from the altar. Your blood must be given willingly, with full understanding of the sacrifice, at the exact point of crossing. And where's that point? She gestures to the center of the chamber, where the stone floor bears a circular depression about 3 feet in diameter. Unlike the rest of the chamber, this section appears almost liquid, the stone surface rippling subtly like water, disturbed by a gentle breeze. The barrier is thinnest there, Eliza explains. Thomas managed to seal it partially with his sacrifice, but the ritual remained incomplete. The cult has been exploiting that weakness for decades. Before I can respond, a new sound echoes through the chamber. Footsteps approaching from the tunnel entrance. Multiple sets, moving with purpose. They're coming. Eliza whispers urgently. Blackwood must have sensed the barrier weakening. Blackwood must have sensed the barrier weakening. He'll try to stop us, to complete his own ritual instead. She thrusts the book and key into my hands. I'll delay them. You need to start the ritual immediately. I don't even know what I'm doing. I protest, the ancient tome heavy in my grasp. Your blood will know, Eliza says cryptically. The Winter's line has always been connected to this place, to the crossing. It's why Thomas could create the barrier in the first place. Trust your instincts. She moves toward the chamber entrance, withdrawing something from her pocket. A small pouch that she empties across the threshold. Black salt forms a line across the opening. And as it settles, the carved raven figurine in her other hand begins to glow with the same blue luminescence as the altar symbols. I turn my attention to the book, its leather binding warm under my touch despite the chamber's chill. The cover bears no title, only an intricate design of interlocking circles surrounding a central emblem. I turn my attention to the book, its leather binding warm under my touch despite the chamber's chill. The cover bears no title, only an intricate design of interlocking circles surrounding a central emblem, a raven in flight. As I open it, the pages emit a soft blue glow, illuminating text written in multiple languages. Some I recognize as Latin and Greek, others completely foreign to any earthly alphabet. How am I supposed to read this, let alone perform a ritual from it? Yet as I scan the pages, certain sections seem to stand out, becoming more legible as if responding to my attention. Words rearrange themselves, translating into English before my eyes. From the tunnel entrance comes the sound of voices, Blackwood's resonant baritone issuing commands, followed by what sounds like Deputy Reynolds responding with military precision. Eliza stands before the black salt line, the raven figurine held before her like a talisman. Hurry, she calls over her shoulder. Find the sealed section. Use the key. I flip through the ancient pages, searching for anything that might indicate a locked portion. Near the back, I discover several pages fused together, their edges sealed with what appears to be dark wax impressed with a familiar symbol. The same raven crest I noticed on Blackwood's signet ring. The brass key fits perfectly into a small, nearly invisible keyhole at the edge of the sealed section. When I turn it, the wax seal dissolves like smoke, the pages separating to reveal content hidden for perhaps centuries. These final pages contain detailed diagrams of the chamber, where I now stand, along with instructions written in a flowing script similar to the handwriting on my rules card. The ritual is described in precise terms. Placement of the participant, words to be spoken, the exact method of blood offering. Another violent tremor shakes the chamber, this one strong enough to crack one of the stone seats. The circular depression in the center bubbles like boiling liquid, though the stone remains solid enough to the eye. From the tunnel comes a sound of conflict. Eliza's voice raised in what sounds like a chant, Blackwood's angry commands, then a cry of pain that might be Reynolds. I have no more time for hesitation. Following the book's instructions, I position myself beside the altar, facing the rippling circle in the floor. The diagrams indicate I must speak certain words while holding my cut palm over both the book and the circle, connecting them, creating a circuit of blood and intent. The words are unfamiliar, yet as I begin to recite them, they flow from my tongue as if I've known them all my life. The language isn't English or any modern tongue, but something older, its syllables resonating with the chamber's natural acoustics to create harmonics that make the blue symbols pulse in rhythm with my voice. At the tunnel entrance, Eliza's chanting reaches a crescendo as shadows appear behind her, Blackwood and Reynolds attempting to breach her protective line. The black salt glows faintly, holding them at bay, but I can see the strain on Eliza's face as she maintains the barrier. Completed now, she shouts, her voice strained. The blood offering. Quickly, I withdraw my pocket knife, the final tool required by the ritual. The blade gleams in the pulsing blue light as I draw it across my palm, pain flaring sharp and immediate. Blood wells from the cut, ordinary human blood, yet it seems to catch the light strangely, refracting it into prismatic patterns across the altar surface. As my blood drips onto the open book, the words on the page begin to move. flowing like liquid across the parchment, reforming into new patterns, spirals and whorls that match the rippling circle in the floor. I extend my bleeding hand over the depression, continuing the chant as my blood falls into the center of the circle. The effect is immediate and dramatic. The stone surface parts like water, revealing not solid earth beneath but a swirling vortex of darkness, shot through with threads of blue light. The crossing, the breach between worlds that Thomas Winters partially sealed with his sacrifice. My blood doesn't fall into the vortex. It hovers at the surface, spreading outward in thin filaments that begin to weave together, forming a net-like structure across the opening. Each droplet extends, connects, strengthens the growing web. From beyond the vortex comes a response, a sound beyond description, part scream, part song, filled with ancient fury and desperate hunger. The darkness within the circle writhes like a living thing, pushing against the blood barrier I'm creating, testing its strength. At the tunnel entrance, the confrontation reaches its climax. Blackwood breaks through Eliza's salt line, his tall frame silhouetted against the tunnel darkness, Reynolds close behind him. Eliza falls back, the raven figurine in her hand now blazing with blue fire. "Stop him," Blackwood commands, his aristocratic composure shattered by rage and fear. The seal cannot be completed. Reynolds advances, drawing his service weapon, but Eliza interposes herself between us, the raven figurine held high. A raven figurine held high. "Your bullets won't matter soon," she says, her voice eerily calm. Either the seal completes and this place is closed forever, or the entity emerges and we all face judgment for our interference. "You fool," Blackwood snarls, his attention fixed on me and the forming blood seal. "You have no idea what you're doing. The entity has promised us power, knowledge, dominion. Gifts your ancestor rejected out of primitive fear." "I've seen what comes through," Eliza counters. "What touched me? There are no gifts, only consumption." The chamber trembles continuously now, the vortex pulsing with increased intensity as my blood continues to form the sealing web. I maintain the chant, each syllable feeling more natural than the last, as if the words are being pulled from some ancestral memory buried in my DNA. Blackwood lunges forward, reaching for the book, but an unexpected intervention stops him. A raven swoops into the chamber, then another, and another, until the air fills with beating wings and harsh cries. The birds materialize from the shadows, as if born from darkness itself, circling the chamber in a living tornado of feathers and beaks. The guardians, Eliza breathes, wonder in her voice. They've come to protect the ritual. The ravens focus their attack on Blackwood and Reynolds, diving at their faces, clawing and pecking with supernatural precision. Reynolds fires his weapon wildly, the gunshots deafeningly loud in the enclosed space, but hits nothing but stone and air. My chanting reaches a crucial passage, the blood web now covering 3/4 of the vortex. I can feel the drain on my body. Not just blood loss, but something deeper, more essential being drawn from me into the seal. My vision blurs slightly, strength ebbing with each syllable. The vortex fights back, tendrils of darkness pushing through gaps in the blood web, reaching upward like searching fingers. Where they touch the chamber air, reality itself seems to distort. Stone rippling like water, shadows gaining substance, light bending in impossible angles. I speak the final words of the ritual, my voice barely above a whisper, as strength continues to drain from my body. The blood web contracts suddenly, pulling tight across the vortex like a closing iris. The darkness beyond writhes in apparent agony, a soundless scream vibrating through the chamber floor. Blackwood reaches me just as the last syllable leaves my lips. His face contorts with rage as he drives an obsidian raven figurine toward my chest. But his hand passes through me as if I'm made of smoke, The ritual's completion has changed something fundamental about my physical state. I look down to see my body becoming translucent, my essence being drawn into the seal itself. Not death exactly, but transformation, becoming part of the barrier, as Thomas Winters did before me. No, Blackwood howls, slashing futilely through my fading form. The emergence cannot be stopped. The covenant must be fulfilled. The vortex gives one final violent pulse, then contracts to a pinpoint of absolute darkness at the center of the blood web. The web itself hardens, crystallizing into a solid seal that glows with inner light. No longer just my blood, but my being, my consciousness, fusing with the barrier. As my physical form dissolves, my awareness expands. I see the chamber from multiple perspectives simultaneously, through my fading human eyes, through the ravens circling above, through the very stones of the ancient structure. I perceive the true nature of the crossing, not just a tear between worlds, but a wound in reality itself, inflicted millennia ago by something that should never have reached Earth. And beyond that wound I sense the entity, vast beyond comprehension, patient beyond time, hungry beyond satiation. A consciousness so alien that human minds can only perceive fragments of its true nature, interpreting it through familiar symbols. Ravens, darkness, hunger. The seal completes with a sound like crystal chimes. The blood web, transformed into a barrier of blue light that covers the vortex completely. The entity rages against it, testing its strength, but the seal holds. Not just a physical barrier, but a metaphysical one, powered by willing sacrifice and blood connection. My sacrifice, my blood, my eternal duty as guardian of the crossing. Eliza Martin sits alone in her small apartment, above what used to be the town's only bookstore, now converted into her private research library. 10 years have passed since the collapse of Raven's Crossing Supermart. 10 years since Jamie Winters sacrificed himself to seal the crossing permanently. The walls around her are covered with maps, photographs, and newspaper clippings. A decade's worth of investigation into similar sites around the world. Places where the boundary between worlds thins, where entities like the one beneath Raven's Crossing have attempted to break through. She's documented 17 potential crossings on 6 continents. At each location, she's found evidence of similar patterns. Cult activity spanning generations, mysterious disappearances, and always ravens watching over the sites. The bluestone raven sits on her desk, its glow diminished but still present, a constant reminder of what happened beneath the supermarket. Beside it lies her latest journal, pages filled with transcriptions of messages received through the ravens that occasionally visit her window. Brief communications from what remains of Jamie Winters. A soft tapping at her window draws her attention. A large raven perches on the sill, its eyes reflecting the room's light with unusual intelligence. She opens the window, allowing the bird to hop inside and settle on her desk. "Hello, old friend," she says softly. "Do you bring news?" The raven tilts its head, studying her with one obsidian eye. When it speaks, the voice that emerges is not the harsh caw of a bird, but a whispered approximation of human speech. "Others, searching. Blackwood descendants. Found journals." Eliza's blood runs cold. She suspected some members of the Blackwood cult might have survived, might still seek to re-establish connection with the entity beyond the crossing. But confirmation chills her nonetheless. "How close are they?" she asks, reaching for her notebook. "Too close. Coming here. Seeking new entrants." "That's impossible," Eliza says, shaking her head. The collapse buried the chamber completely. Ground-penetrating radar showed no accessible tunnels remaining. Not through Earth. Through dreams. Through blood. The raven hops closer, its movements unnaturally precise for a bird. In its presence, Eliza feels the familiar sensation that accompanies Jamie's communications. A slight drop in temperature, a pressure behind her eyes, The faint smell of stone and metal. They can't reach you through dreams, she says. But uncertainty colors her voice. The entity teaches them, shows paths between, thins barriers through willing minds. This is new information, and deeply troubling. If the entity can influence dreamers, guide them through psychic connections to the crossing, the physical seal might not be sufficient protection. What can we do? Eliza asks, fear evident in her voice for the first time in years. The raven's form shimmers slightly, the bird's outline blurring as Jamie's consciousness strengthens its connection through the guardian creature. Find them first. Break the bloodline connection. Protect the seal. How many are there? 3 remaining. Last of true Blackwood line. Coming to Raven's Crossing tomorrow. Eliza rises immediately, moving to her research wall. Names, descriptions. The raven flies to the wall, landing beside a newspaper clipping from 3 months ago. A business article featuring a photograph of 3 people at a corporate event. The bird taps its beak against the image. Victor Blackwood's grandchildren, Eliza realizes, studying the faces. I thought they'd abandoned his legacy, moved away from the family business. Deception. Always deception. They serve still. The article identifies the 3 as executives in a multinational mining corporation. The modern evolution of the original Blackwood Coal Company. Their planned expansion includes reopening historical mining operations throughout the region, including sites near Raven's Crossing. A perfect cover for accessing the sealed chamber. I'll stop them, Eliza promises, determination hardening her features. Whatever it takes. The raven watches her silently, then speaks once more. Be careful. The entity offers dreams of desire, shows what you most want. And what would that be? Eliza asks, though she already knows the answer. Me, human again, freed from the seal. The truth hangs heavy between them. In 10 years of communication through the ravens, Jamie has never mentioned the possibility of reversing his transformation, of reclaiming human form. The temptation such a prospect might present to Eliza, who has carried guilt over his sacrifice for a decade, would be nearly irresistible. I would never compromise the seal, she says firmly. Not even for that. The entity knows your heart, offers false hope. Beware. With that final warning, the raven spreads its wings and flies back to the window, pausing on the sill for one last message. Watch for the signs. 3 rules still protect. The ruins of Raven's Crossing Supermart lie undisturbed under moonlight, the collapsed structure long since reclaimed by nature. Weeds push through cracked concrete, and young trees have taken root where aisles of groceries once stood. The site has become a local curiosity, a place teenagers dare each other to visit at night, telling embellished stories of the building's sudden, unexplained collapse a decade ago. None of them know the truth of what lies beneath. Eliza approaches cautiously, using the cover of trees surrounding the former parking lot. The blue raven stone pulses gently in her pocket, responding to proximity to the sealed crossing. She's come prepared. Salt, iron implements, protective charms researched from a dozen different traditions. Most importantly, she carries knowledge, understanding of what the Blackwood descendants intend and how to stop them. Movement near the center of the ruins catches her attention. 3 figures in dark clothing arrange items in a rough circle, where the frozen food section once stood. Even from a distance, the family resemblance is clear. The same tall frames, the same aristocratic features that characterized Victor Blackwood. The last of his line, Catherine, Marcus, and Elias Blackwood. Executives, philanthropists, respected community leaders, and secret servants of the entity beyond the crossing. Eliza edges closer, keeping to the shadows. The Blackwoods have set up equipment around their ritual space. Not the crude tools of traditional occultism, but sophisticated technology. Ground-penetrating radar, seismic sensors, a device Eliza doesn't recognize that emits a low, pulsing hum. Modern methods serving ancient purposes. Catherine Blackwood, the eldest, directs her siblings with practiced authority. The readings confirm it. This is directly above the chamber. The entity's resonance is strongest here. Marcus checks a tablet displaying complex waveforms. Dimensional thinning already underway. The dream-walking prepared the connection point as expected. From the trees surrounding the ruins, ravens begin to gather. First a few, then dozens. Their black shapes barely visible against the night sky. They make no sound, no movement to betray their presence. But Eliza knows they're not ordinary birds. They're extensions of Jamie's consciousness, guardians responding to the threat against the sealed crossing. Catherine removes an object from a velvet pouch, an obsidian raven identical to the one Victor Blackwood used a decade ago. Its surface seems to absorb moonlight, creating a void in the shape of a bird. Blood of the Covenant, she intones, producing a silver knife, freely given to renew the pact. The three siblings extend their palms, each receiving a shallow cut that allows blood to drip onto the obsidian figure. As the blood touches the stone, it doesn't flow normally but seems to be absorbed, pulled into the material, as if it were porous. The humming device increases in pitch, its tone shifting to something that makes Eliza's teeth ache. The ground beneath the ritual circle begins to vibrate subtly, loose stones skittering across concrete fragments. It's time to intervene. It's time to intervene. Eliza steps from the tree line, the blue raven stone held before her like a talisman. Stop, she commands, her voice carrying unexpected authority. You have no idea what you're attempting to release. The Blackwoods turn as one, surprise quickly replaced by recognition on Catherine's face. Eliza Morton, she says, a cold smile forming. Grandfather's journals mentioned you, the researcher who interfered, the one who helped seal the crossing, the one who helped seal the crossing, the one who helped save your world. Eliza corrects, continuing her approach. The entity you serve isn't a benefactor. It's a parasite. It gave your family nothing you didn't already possess. Took credit for success you earned through human means, all while feeding on your sacrifices. The ravens choose this moment to reveal themselves. Hundreds launching simultaneously from surrounding trees with a thunderous beating of wings. They circle above the ritual space, their formation unnaturally precise, creating a living vortex against the night sky. Catherine raises the obsidian raven, speaking words in a language that seems to tear at reality itself. The same incantation Victor used a decade ago, passed down through generations of cult leadership. The humming device reaches a painful intensity, the ground vibration strengthening until small fissures appear in the earth. From these cracks emerges a familiar blue glow, the light of the seal, visible now through the thinning barrier between surface and chamber. Eliza raises her own stone raven in response, speaking counterwords learned from Jamie's communications. The blue glow intensifies, pushing back against the spreading fissures. The circling ravens descend suddenly, focusing their attack on the humming device. Dozens of birds sacrifice themselves, diving directly into the machinery, their bodies disrupting its operation through sheer mass and momentum. Through this chaos, Eliza continues her approach, the blue stone growing brighter with each step. When she reaches the edge of the ritual circle, she casts a handful of black salt, the same substance she used to create a barrier in the chamber years ago. The effect is immediate. The salt forms a perfect circle, cutting off the Blackwoods' connection to the energies they've begun to summon. The fissures stop spreading, the blue glow receding back into the earth. No! Catherine cries, genuine fear replacing confidence. The connection can't be broken mid-ritual. It already has been, Eliza says grimly. The consequences manifest instantly. The obsidian raven in Catherine's hand cracks down the center, dark energy spilling from within. The three siblings collapse to their knees, gasping as something invisible but tangible seems to be pulled from them. The entity reclaiming what it granted their bloodline, just as it did with their grandfather. But something unexpected happens. As the entity withdraws its influence from the Blackwoods, the ground beneath them destabilizes completely. The ritual site collapses inward, creating a sinkhole that threatens to swallow everyone present. Eliza scrambles backward as earth falls away beneath her feet. The ravens wheel overhead in obvious distress, their formation breaking as Jamie's consciousness attempts to respond to this unforeseen development. Catherine and Marcus Blackwood slide into the widening pit, their screams cut short as darkness engulfs them. Elias manages to catch himself at the edge, hanging desperately from a twisted metal beam that once supported the supermarket's foundation. Eliza has a split-second decision to make: retreat to safety or attempt to save the youngest Blackwood. Despite everything, she chooses compassion, lunging forward to grasp Elias's outstretched hand. "Hold on," she shouts, bracing herself against the crumbling edge. From within the depths comes a sound that raises the hair on Eliza's neck. Not the entity's rage, but something else. A human voice, distorted but recognizable. "Eliza." She crawls cautiously to the edge, peering into darkness that seems deeper than physical space should allow. The blue glow has returned, illuminating the sinkhole's interior. Not a simple collapse, but a direct opening to the sealed chamber far below. And standing in that chamber, visible through layers of earth and stone, rendered somehow transparent by the blue light, is a figure she recognizes immediately despite the decade that has passed. Jamie Winters, not as she last saw him, dissolving into the seal, but fully human in appearance, looking exactly as he did the night he sacrificed himself. "Jamie," she whispers, disbelieving. "Not Jamie," come the response, the voice echoing strangely through the opening. "The entity, wearing memories, offering dreams." Understanding dawns with horrifying clarity. The entity has found a new approach, no longer attempting to break through physically, but using Jamie's appearance, his memories, to manipulate emotional connections. The seal, Eliza gasps. Is it broken? Weakened? Not broken. Attempting deception. The figure that appears to be Jamie smiles, the expression too wide, too fixed. When it speaks again, the voice shifts between Jamie's familiar tones and something ancient, multi-layered. "Eliza, help me. I found a way back. I can return if you just reach down. Take my hand." The Jamie thing extends its arm upward, fingers stretching impossibly long toward the opening. A raven lands directly in front of her, breaking her line of sight to the entity below. The bird's eyes glow blue. Jamie's true consciousness, communicating through his chosen guardian. "Remember the rules." The raven speaks in Jamie's voice. "If shadows move without source, stay in the light until dawn." Eliza withdraws her hand, strengthened by the reminder of the rules that have protected Raven's Crossing for a decade. "Jamie made his choice," she says firmly. "His sacrifice meant something. I won't dishonor it by falling for your deceptions." From above, the ravens descend in a coordinated attack. Hundreds of birds diving into the sinkhole, their bodies glowing blue as they sacrifice themselves to reinforce the weakened seal. They form a living barrier between the entity and the surface world, their essence merging with the original blood web created by Jamie's sacrifice. The entity roars in frustration as the opening begins to close, the transparent effect fading, solid matter reasserting itself between worlds. As the sinkhole closes completely, the blue glow fading from the surface world, the remaining ravens gather in the trees surrounding the ruins. Their collective gaze, Jamie's gaze, focuses on Eliza and the serving Blackwood. "What happens now?" Elias asks, his voice small in the growing light. "You have a choice," Eliza says. "Continue your family's destructive legacy, or help me protect what should remain buried." She extends her hand, offering not just immediate assistance, but a new path forward. After a moment's hesitation, Elias takes it. As the sun rises over Raven's Crossing, the ravens disperse, returning to their function as watchful guardians throughout the region. One remains, perched on a broken beam that once supported the supermarket's roof. Its eyes glow blue in the morning light, watching over the town it has sworn to protect. I am Jamie Winters, the Night Clerk, the Guardian, the willing sacrifice. And I am the reason the ravens watch you while you sleep. So now you know. Some freezers breathe, some shadows lie, and some birds don't fly away, even after death. This story was brought to you by Night Creepypasta Rules, where rules aren't meant to be followed. They're meant to keep you from being found. Hit subscribe. Drop a comment. Tell us what would have broken you first. The raven, the freezer, or the moment you realized the rules were watching back. And remember, the night shift always returns. So will we.